Hey guys, welcome to Skylight Tarot and welcome to lecture number 6. So we have completed till the death card. Let's move on. So now we have Temperance. As the name suggests, Temperance is about attunement, it is about balance, it is about harmony, it is about a bridge between the conscious and subconscious. Okay, now let's decode this card. Of course, there is a fairy. She's kind of wearing a white robe that suggests that her intentions, her motives, her spirit, everything is very much pure, right? There are, if you can just see, one foot is on the ground, the other foot is in the water. Now, there are two lilies, which sort of represents the joy, the bloom, the virtue, the all the good things. Now, when we talk about the sun here and the mountains, this represents what's that word for it? Psychoanalytically, right? This is known as ego, the concept of ego. And the sun is known as superego, so it's basically the id and this is the ego. Doesn't necessarily have to, you don't have to go into those kind of detail, but it's more about your own ego, right? And when you have to be in balance, it sort of represents that you have to balance your ego, your id, right? And you have to transmute it into something which is much more creative, something which is much more fulfilling. Okay, if you can see that there is this symbol, which is a triangle, which is basically a fire element, and this represents the balance between the mind, body, and soul. It represents the Holy Trinity. Okay, now let's decode again. The entire thing in this card goes with two elements. One is these two goblets, the energy flow that is happening here, and the another one is the way that she is standing. All right, so how is she standing? Whenever we talk about tarot, right, the water body here, this kind of represents your emotions. Now, when a stagnant water body, which is not flowing, this represents your emotional block, your subconscious block. Okay, and what you have to do, this could also represent that pool of your subconscious thoughts, which kind of leads to overthinking, which kind of leads to you not being in harmony. What it has to be done is like it has to be grounded, right? So this is more like the conscious thing, this is more like the subconscious thing. So whenever something negative comes up in your mind, how are you able to transmute it and ground those emotions is what Temperance is all about. You can see in tarot readings, people call it healing, while it is basically balancing and not healing. And as you are balanced, of course, you're healing and only. So indirectly, of course, this is a healing card. However, this card is not about healing. This card is about balance, harmony, attunement, a bridge between the subconscious thoughts and conscious thoughts. All right. Now, this also represents how can you transmute those energies very calmly. If you can see the expression, whenever an overthinking comes in, whenever something comes in, she can actually transmute it effectively because she's in balance, she's in harmony. If this card comes up in a love reading, this sort of represents the seeker, right? So are you in balance with your own emotions? So you have to temper your negative emotions like anger, resentment, obsession, possessiveness, all the negative things. How can you literally transmute those energies? That is something which you need to look at if you're asking about a relationship. However, if this is coming in terms of, I would say, career, now this suggests that the fusion of the seeker's current skills with the skills that are expected out of them. And this is not something that you have to learn something new. It's just that how can you reconcile your existing skills with what is needed or what is expected out of you? How can you do things differently so that you can show it to the world that yes, you are there? Because in career, this sort of changes. It's not about emotions, it's about mind, right? And we are talking about mind, body, and spirit. And when we talk about the health, of course, you have to temper things. Like if you're having diabetes, no, you cannot be sipping down Coca-Colas every now and then. You can't do that. I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm not sure whether I should name this or not. I mean, I just named it. All right, so There is no promotion happening, okay, of that beverage. So, yeah. And now, if this card is in reverse, what does that represents? That there is an excess of everything. Something is out of balance. Overthinking is so much that it cannot be transmuted into something much more useful. There is an excess overflow, the body is out of balance. You just have to take, greater, I would say, attention to details when it comes to this card. All right. So this is, everything is just not in harmony. That's what this card represents in reverse. Now, the planet that this card is associated with is Jupiter. In a yes and no reading, this is a yes card. And the timeline associated with this card is Sagittarius, which is November, December, I think. Yeah. Okay. So that's about Temperance. Now let's move towards um, Devil. Just ignore the noises in the background. I just can't help it. I can't help it. Um, 1 second. Sorry, I have to trying to keep it like PG, you know. All right. Remember the Lover's card, the man and the woman looking up into the angel. The things have now reversed here. The man and woman tied to a chain. The important part here to note is just that this man and woman is tied to this chain, right? There is an obsession, which is more like a sexual obsession, which is being coming from the devil's side because the tail is lit up on fire of the man. So he's kind of looking at the woman with passion. Woman has, fruits in her tail that sort of represents fertility, abundance, and everything, right? And devil sort of controls them. As you can see, this mark is also a Satan's mark, which is more like a reverse pentacle. Pentacle, right? Pentacle or star, whatever that you guys call. This is about instant gratification. What do you mean by instant gratification? That you have not formed the connection, you have just gone ahead, gotten physical, gotten yourself, released of the instant rush that you feel, right? That is about this card. This card is basically something that has everything wrong. So if you're talking about how am I coming across in a relationship, or if there is a love reading coming up, and if someone asks you, like, what is this person thinking about me, or how does this person feels about me, what would you say? You would say that this person wants to control you, this person wants to chain you up, not in, oh yeah, in that sense as well. Yeah, in that sense as well. However, the point is that this person has a lot of traumas inside them, they have a lot of insecurities, and they are projecting those insecurities on you. So let's just say, for example, if someone comes to you and this card comes in, that means this person has possessiveness, this person is possessive, jealous, this person is very much attracted towards you, like sexually, and which is why this person, this person doesn't even trust you. So that means they just want to chain you, they want to know your whereabouts, where are you going, who are you talking to, they're always keeping tabs on you, to a point that it becomes an obsession. That kind of relationship is governed by the devil. Doesn't necessarily have to be always sexual, but it's all about, those bondages, something that makes you feel stuck, something that makes you feel that you're not free, something that makes you feel very overpowering. And that is coming from the negative aspect. There is no peace, there is no balance, there is no harmony which is coming in, and that's when you know that devil is doing its job. Okay, now this card, if this card comes in, that also represents that there are some karmic forces which is influencing the decisions, or let's just say actions. Sometimes you must have wondered in your life, right? You kind of get that strong pull towards someone, and you're like, I'm just wondering, like, why do I feel so connected with this person, or why do I feel that strong pull towards this person even though I know that this relationship is very toxic? That is because of the karmic connection. Okay, So now, when you talk about the love reading, which I've already told you that this is a kind of a love which is more like an obsession, unhealthy attachments, right? Possessiveness, all the stuff that makes you feel stuck. That is what is happening in the love reading. If you talk about a career, of course, then that kind of makes you like there is something here which is negative is at play, which is overpowering, and you're feeling stuck in this career and you're unable to move out of this situation, or this career. If this comes towards the health or other aspects, you would just simply say that you're addicted to something. Like for example, it could be something like beverages. Okay, it could be something like an addiction to the stuffs, addiction to smokes and smoke up and stuff. I'm not sure about how do I put it, and how do I just make it sound like it's acceptable by everyone. However, you get the gist, right? So any addiction, which is not necessarily have to be the plants, the herbs, the tobacco, and the beverages. It can also represent to sugar addiction, right? It can also represent to some sort of unhealthy addiction when it comes to your eating patterns or your eating habits. So that is something which is at play here. Now, I would say that this is a card when this comes in reverse. What does that represents? Now things become positive in reverse because now there is no bondage. This is getting removed, right? You are overcoming those tempting forces that is making you feel stuck. Okay. In a yes and no reading, of course, this is a no card. The sign that is associated with this reading is Capricorn. So Capricorns are what? Like December, January? Yeah, December, January. Okay. And the planet that is associated with this card is Saturn. That is our devil. Now let's come to Tower. Now the cards that are coming up here, they are kind of pretty much easy to somehow decode. I think I'm gonna take 4 today. Okay. Let's talk about Tower. Tower is about if you can just see this card, just try to make out. There is a tower standing. Okay, there is a tower here. It's night time because it's black. Try and understand this card. There is a lightning coming in and is kind of getting struck here. Everyone is just falling off the tower, and then things are just, there is an upheaval, there is a chaos, there is a, I would say, sudden change, a jolting event that has happened. This is what it's representing, right? Now, if you relate to it, whenever a lightning strike happens, it happens like immediately and it destroys something immediately. Okay? When we talk about this tower sort of represents that if a lightning strike can dismantle this tower, that means the foundation that this was built on was not strong enough, right? Getting my point? And that is what this entire card is all about. So when we talk about the foundations is about in terms of your ego, in terms of your, I would say, false beliefs, pride, you know, sense of power, someone who wants to hold power over others. What else? Something that was built in the past, right? You literally did a lot of hard work to build this tower, but it was not built on a great foundation. Great foundation in the sense it was not built with openness. It was not built with compassion. It was not built with something which can go a long way, because pride, ego, everything is very short lived, right? One thing happens and then there is a disbalance. Your ego can crumble down. Your um, pride can crumble down if you are getting from top position to low to bottom position. And if you're someone who's like more like a CEO of a company and you've been asked to resign, that ego that you were carrying, that hey, I'm the CEO of the company, that crumbles down, right? What doesn't crumble down during any, sudden jolt or sudden events or sudden upheaval? What doesn't crumble down is basically your peace, your internal balance, your harmony, your spirituality, these things. Like even when something bad is happening in your life, you're basically balanced. You're taking a lesson that okay, that means maybe, maybe I have something else to do. So this card, like I said, is all about sudden change, sudden upheaval, sudden fall, sudden catastrophe, and all of these things. Now, when it comes in a love reading, when it comes in a love reading, this sort of represents that some event will going to happen in your life that will going to separate the two of you. So you have to make sure that the foundation on which this relationship is built on is really strong. Because if that's strong, this event will not going to shake you up. If it is not strong, then yes, that will gonna lead to separation. Similar thing for your, I would say, career as well. If you really have the skills and you've literally done the hard work very much efficiently, selflessly, not selflessly, because in career we always demand money. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that honestly, honestly, if you built your career, you know that even if something happens here, I will get something else somewhere, or I will do, because I have a faith within myself, that foundation in you is strong, that I'll do something. If this doesn't work out, I know the way out. I'll do something else. Okay? So basically, this card is about the old must be destroyed so that the new can be built. This time correctly and for the right reasons. That's what this card stands for. Now, if this is coming in reverse, this means that you are stronger. The foundation is really strong. So nothing can basically shake you. Okay? And which is why everything will going to remain as it is and there will not be any shake up. It'll just come and it'll just pass away. But nothing can literally shake you guys up. Okay? So in a yes and no reading, of course, this is a no card. All right, so that's about Tower. We have the next card is Moon. Oh, sorry, the next card is not Moon. The next card is the Star, where I again need to cover up certain things. Okay, the next card is about Star. Star is about hope. Star is about inspiration. It is about optimism. It is about being visionary, right? This is what this card sort of represents. Now, after that sudden fall of the tower, there is the star coming up here. That sort of represents that yes, there is a hope. Although everything has been now shattered, there is a hope that's there, right? As you can see that there is a bird here. If you can see this, there is a bird which is perched on this tree. This is known as ibis. This is believed to be, how do I say it? This is known as the sacred ibis, and it is believed to be a defense against curses of the serpent. So whenever you are hoping and whenever you are basically taking inspiration, you will not be hit by anything that's pessimistic, anything that's negative, because you've crossed that line. And this bird sort of represents that optimism coming into picture, your hopes and dreams and everything to be realized. Okay. So the bird perched on the tree conveys new opportunity that will restore hope. Okay. This is a card of abundance of happiness, harmony, beauty, hope, and peace whenever this card comes in the reading. And when I talk about beauty, hope, everything else, I also talk about the spiritual abundance that is coming with it, right? And if you talk about the career, if someone comes to you and asks you about a career reading, like, which field should I choose? And if this card comes up, that means you could be a writer, you could be a philosopher, you could be a researcher, or you could teach stuff to someone, because this is about optimistic. And when you'll basically do something with great, I would say, inspiration, that you will leave behind some sort of legacy, because this card is also about inspiration. So how can you inspire people? That is what this card is about when it comes to the career part. If it's coming in a love card, that means there is all the positive things that's happening in your relationship, so there is nothing negative that is going on. Now, as you can see in the Temperance, we had seen that there were two goblets, right? And the water is being poured in the two goblets. The entire arrangement, when one foot is there on the ground, the other foot is there on the subconscious part. This card is also representing the similar sort of element. This is about that you're regulating everything with a lot of optimism. Okay. So the this sign that this card associates itself with is Aquarius. And if it's Aquarius, timing wise, it could be January, February, right? And the planet that Aquarius is resonates with is Saturn. So yeah. Now, if this card is in reverse, your hope, your optimism sort of converts to negativity, pessimism, right? Everything is just not well in your life. You really need to balance it out. You really need to be hopeful. This, to some extent, for some tarot readers, they also consider this a card of manifestation, because you are actually dreaming about something, you're being hopeful about your dreams and goals, and everything is basically coming into alignment. Okay. So there are not much elements in this card. Let me just check if there's anything that I'm missing here. Yeah, even I need to refer sometimes. No, I think we're good. Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. So this is what about the star card is. I think we have time to cover one more card. No. All right. So this covers your lecture number 6. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye.